Roll call, please.
Barr, Giovannini, Eckhoff,
Here.
Callis,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Cowser,
Here.
Bradshaw,
Here.
Cranford,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Willie.
Here.
First up on our agenda tonight is a citizen commendation. Chief Campbell will do the honors.
Mayor, Council, I come before you tonight to recognize a very important gentleman here who is very deserving of the commendation that we give him tonight. On July 15, 2023, the Pontiac Fire Department was dispatched for a motor vehicle accident that involved a car versus a motorcycle. En route, the responding emergency personnel were advised that the driver of the motorcycle had a critical leg injury. Upon arrival, the Pontiac Fire Department found Cody Hahn, a passerby, attending to the injured motorcycle driver's leg. Cody had recognized that the patient had a severe leg injury and had begun applying a waist belt to the leg as a tourniquet to help slow down the bleeding. Pontiac Fire Department at that point in time took over patient care and applied their own tourniquet and began to administer advanced life support for the unresponsive motorcycle driver. The Pontiac Fire Department would like to publicly commend Mr. Hahn for his actions on July 15, 2023, that helped contribute to the saving the life of the motorcycle driver involved in a motor vehicle accident. Citizens like Mr. Hahn play a key role in helping emergency personnel protect and preserve life in our community. As a token of our appreciation, we'd like to award Mr. Hahn with a Citizen Commendation Certificate to help serve as a reminder of the good deed that he performed on July 15, 2023. It is evident that Mr. Hahn's actions at this emergency incident played a key role in saving the life of the motorcycle driver. Mr. Hahn. In addition to recognizing Mr. Hahn, I would also like to publicly commend the actions of our Pontiac Fire Department personnel that day. While we expect them to perform in this manner, their actions that day also contributed with Mr. Hahn's actions to saving the life of Mr. Carpenter here. Those that were on scene that provided medical care were paramedic Janet Danbury, firefighter Devin Johansson, firefighter Michael Miner, EMT Joseph Nolan, Lieutenant Eddie Prendergast, Lieutenant Andrew Vitztum, and Captain Ryan Hansen. While our organization expects our personnel to respond this way, it takes a very special person to respond as a citizen, as Mr. Hahn did this day, and it just really emphasizes the key that the public and the emergency responders have to work hand in hand to make a difference in our community. So thank you, Mr. Hahn. Mr. Carpenter's here today, and I'm very appreciative for him to show up, and you have our full support from the fire department and your care, and your family's here. So thank you very much, Mr. Hahn, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor. So.
Thank you again.
Hey, Chief, take a photo. You guys have the leaders back here. Maybe right here. You mind? No, that's fine.
Congratulations again, Cody, and good luck, Mr. Carpenter. We hope for the best for you, too.
Thank you.
Moving on, consent agenda. We have 5 items on there, if we've had a chance to look those over.
I would motion acceptance of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Scott. Roll call, please.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, we have the Main Street Conference wrap-up. I see Misty's making her way to the podium. And as she gets started, we should say, great job, Misty,
Thanks.
and the entire staff. They were all fabulous.
Thanks. Good to see y'all. Thanks for having me. Yes, I'm here to do the little bit of a wrap up from our conference. And I got the totals today from Mr. Miller, who's with the Illinois Main Street, from some of the items that they paid for directly. But the things that we had to bill them for, plus that, it was a total of approximately $34,000 plus some change. We do lay out sheets every time they have a conference where you ask people to kind of write in when they spend money in town and what they write it in for. And just the lodging from the people that registered, they had 130 people registered. And that was over $7,000 into our hotels, not counting the $6,000 that the Illinois Main Street Conference paid for their rooms that they booked. We had 2.5 days, 5 keynote speakers, 22 breakout sessions with 27 speakers. I was happy to say that we had 9 local people that signed up for the conference, staff members and some of the council and some business owners. And we had a representation of 13 people at the dinner where the Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton spoke, so that was beautiful. And we had a couple great volunteers. That was Brenda Thompson and Bob Carls. Bob Carls couldn't give enough trolley tours on Tuesday. He was scheduled for 3 and had to give a 4th just because there were people waiting. And Jake Kincaid was the great driver, and I'm sure he heard a different story every time the trolley went around, but it was great. Lots of things happened that were just amazing. I thought Tuesday night was one of the best nights I've had, not just here, but in working in this type of business all the way around, and was evident when a couple people said kind of the same thing, that you would never know that I was new to this role, to this team, and this community, and that really made me feel good. I thought we worked together just swimmingly. I thought everything went great. The city department helped to make everything look amazing, and we have some things that were left from the conference. The wayfinding signs that are on the streets, if you've noticed them, was an initiative. They wanted to buy street signage of some sort so people would be able to see around, and we had this idea from when Mary was here, and Hannah took the lead on that, and we got those put on the ground. Pretty much as people were showing up to town, we were getting those placed, and I think 4 or 5 different communities reached out to me personally and was like, where'd you get those? How'd you get those? What company did you use? These are amazing. We're taking pictures of them. And I've had some emails since then of people that were wanting to know that information as well. And we also had some kudos on, we had kudos on lots of things. People loved our community, and but there was a lot of questions on, we like the music that's pumped downtown. What do we do? How do we get that? So I sent those to Andrew. And it was a whirlwind week. I think we all were exhausted by the time it was over, but it was a happy exhaustion. And it looked like on the papers, pretty much food and drink was bought every establishment downtown or close to proximity of downtown. Seeing all the faces on Tuesday night, I thought it was, that's what these things are made for, is community involvement and networking, and not just with other organizations, but amongst ourselves. So thank you immensely for your support on that. And I don't know that if I had any complaints, why would I end it with complaints? Because it was such a great time. So we learned a ton. I have so many ideas, and everyone there came away with some great ideas and came away with some great swag. Y'all got some coffee mugs, but there's swag on the back table if any of y'all want to get any of that. So I have that. We have lots of that because they left everything they didn't want to take. So we'll be giving away Illinois Main Street bags probably for the next solid 3 months. So, any questions? Oh,
just a great job, Missy. I think everybody involved did a fabulous job. And I'm sure you had a ton of volunteers, plus I know that Chris and his crew spent a lot of time getting you set up and raring to go too, so. I
Chris
thought
knows me well by now with this and the trees and more trees and yes.
Okay, well, it was a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And pass that along to all the other staff too.
Absolutely. Did you hear that, Hannah?
Hannah hears everything, so,
She does.
yeah. Okay. Moving on, golf course chemical purchase.
That will be me. So it's that time of year again where we need to purchase chemicals for the golf course next year. As you can see on the sheet, as we did last year, we buy them in bulk, and the price is $55,418.60. This does not reflect the discount that we're still going to get $5,000 or $6,000 off of that price as well. And we get that discount by ordering early. So in the end, we do well, and our chemicals lasted us for the season. So I would just recommend that we make that purchase.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Jamie to purchase chemicals. Roll call, please.
Callis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw. Yes. Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes. Was it much of an increase over this year?
No, actually, I think it was a little bit of a
Yeah.
decrease.
Yeah.
Fertilizer is down, so,
Yeah.
so I'm told.
Yeah, last year I think it was a little closer to 60.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a contract extension request. Brian, you want to take care of that?
Yes. We're talking about the 22 PCC maintenance program. This project was bid and awarded in December of 2022 for construction this year. The original contract had a completion date, or a completion of 100 working days. It became evident at one point that the project would not be completed on time, and the contractor asked for 11 working days additional, which was granted on October 2nd in a good faith effort to complete the project. The project is not quite completed in that time frame, and they're asking for an additional 12 working days, 7 days added for some additional work that was added to the contract, and 5 additional days for staging as outlined in the letter in your packet. The one note that I would have is they're asking for the 12 additional days for substantial completion. In the specifications, which are part of this contract that IDOT puts forth, substantial completion is not really an item at all. It's final completion is how they have it. So I guess it would be up to your discretion of whether we address this as final completion as put forth in the specifications, or if we amend that to be substantial completion.
I guess the question is, what's the difference? Where are we at then?
Are you primarily, Brian, looking at the sealing of the concrete?
Well, there's a sealing of the concrete, which is 14 days from when the pavement was poured, which was on Wednesday, the 15th. But then the other items would be topsoil and seeding and those type of items that would have to be completed as well. That would be for the final completion.
Any questions need to address here? Is this unusual to get a second request like this, or?
I won't say that it's without precedent. There are times where 2 requests come in.
What's your professional
Yeah, I
opinion?
was gonna say we're negative.
Well, I think right now they're asking, they've got 7 days for added work, 5 days for staging, which gets us to these 12. The 11 originally were kind of good faith. There wasn't a specific reason for that request. And then, I mean, we want to get the project finished as soon as we can, obviously, but we're not going to be able to seed at this point until the spring.
Right?
Working days would per specification, run through the 30th of November.
What's the consequences if we don't do it? I'm
So,
curious.
so if it were not to be granted, then they would be days beyond the contract, and there would be liquidated damages for every working day that they're not complete. And liquidated damages are set by specification for this contract. They're set by dollar value. So based on the dollar value of this contract, it's $1,425 per day.
Good question.
Yeah, so if I could add to that, this, if you recall, on October 2nd, came after a lengthy dispute on this project. I would say that there are probably efficiencies that I could have, on the city's behalf, done better throughout this thing, as well as Opperman as well. We could have been definitely more efficient in how we handled that first extension. And so, our goal obviously is to be efficient on both sides of the city, and this issue is more of a matter of contract administration, and our goal is to be reasonable to all bidders, which in this particular instance, if you recall, the bids weren't all that close, and I mean, in a matter of, we've had meetings to get this issue resolved. And it was my opinion during those meetings, as far as a conflict resolution, that recognizing that this was not our best effort in contract administration, that we have to do better and send a clearer message to all of our contractors. And my goal really is to get past this contract. We've been dealing with this in a long time. And then moving forward, some things that we can spell out that the city going forward will make sure that all of our bid personnel and companies know. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, with this, see, the second high bidder still is considerably higher, the number 2 runner or 3, whatever, I can't remember.
Yeah,
what now.
absolutely.
Yeah, there was a big spread. And I was involved in the same conversations, a lot of them with Jim, and share the fact that a lot of the problem came from the primary contract issue. And when we resolved that, I don't think either side really gave enough thought to what is the practical time frame to complete the work from that day on. We just threw out a date, and November 1 sounded like a good date, and that's what they jumped on. And if either side probably would have went through and come through with a calculation, this is going to take this long, this is going to take this long, we'd have been here anyway. And, you know, definitely a long ways from perfect on both sides. And during that meeting, I think Jim in particular was very clear, and Brian, to the contractor, that because of the unique circumstances that led to this, you know, we can recommend that to the council, but don't expect it in the future. You guys are responsible for your own time of the work, and even though we administer it, you know, and Brian works with them, we don't have the ultimate say in when they close this street, when they do this work, when they tear out that pavement. That's something they've got to have a construction timeline. And this was not weather related at all. They had reasonably good weather from October 2nd till now even. And I would say that, having watched what they're doing, and they might have been able to do a few efficiencies, and Brian could talk about that, what their efficiencies might be in terms of how they could have went from this job to this part of the job and got ahead of it a little bit for the concrete pours. In reality, they did, once we got that October 2nd thing done, they got their nose to the grindstone and started and hit it hard. And I don't think it was doable by November 1. You know, again, not enough thought went into it. They agreed to it, we agreed to it. It was, like I said, Jim says, kind of a mutual, not looking closely enough at the problem. And we need to send definitely a message to contractors that we take those deadlines seriously, and I know Brian's working with them all the time, and he's reminding them, we had this conversation, reminds them regularly about the clock is ticking, the working days left, and, if we wouldn't have started with the problems, that was a legitimate dispute, I think I would be sitting here saying liquidated damages would be what you need to do. Right now, he's saying substantial completion, final completion won't happen till spring. I don't know when do working days start in the spring again, Brian?
Working days begin again May 1st.
May 1, so it'd be in
Yes.
May, so we got November, the rest of the month from November 30th, from November 1, so we have 30 days, working days that be penalized this year, and then whatever it takes to get that seeding done next spring, if the seeding is the final job. So I haven't sat down through the negotiations. I think the request, not, I hate to use the word reasonable, but should be allowable because of the particular facts and circumstances pertaining to this particular job. And I hope we don't have one of these again for a while that has this one seemed to have a black cloud over it from the inception. But the bids were good, and the low bidder did, have a real competitive bid.
Well, and the location's kind of a problem because of the schools and the traffic and all that. They had to have a lot of
And
obstacles
because of
with
the other
that.
problems, they didn't get weak.
Yeah.
Brian, when he put his timeline together, I think envisioned that schoolwork had happened before kids.
Right,
Yeah, the contract stated August 4th for those streets to be completed.
yeah, wow. Well, it sounds like it's
It's like 3 months
reasonable.
behind.
Yeah. But it sounds like with good reason.
But that's,
like we
again,
had.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
The-
yeah.
Our October 2nd extension, I kind of felt like we had set aside that other stuff. We acknowledged that there were a lot of things that could have and should have been done different, but we set that aside at that time. And so I was looking at the second part from an October 2nd going forward position in contract administration.
Well, it appears that both Bill and Jim are leading that direction, and it's a project we need to get finished, so if it takes a motion to move forward, I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion from Bill Callis to approve the extension, seconded by Jason.
So we're saying substantial, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be to approve what he's presented, which is substantial improvement. Completion.
Roll call, please.
Lee,
Yes.
Cowser,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes,
Callis.
Yes,
Thank you.
You got the next one too.
And you're up again.
Okay. The storm sewer separation phase 2, Opperman Construction is working on that project as well. That was bid and awarded in March of this year for this year's construction. The original contract was to be completed in 190 calendar days with substantial completion date of November 22nd. The final completion was 10 days later with December 2nd. Opperman has requested an additional 30 calendar days. The request is outlined in the letter that's in the packet here as well. A meeting or two ago, I think the council approved a change order for additional depth that was required by utility conflicts. At that time, there was no additional days asked for part of that construction, and that is part of these days that are additional because of the additional time and effort used to move that material. The Farnsworth Group is the engineer of record. They have been consulted on this as well, and I have reviewed this as well, and believe that the days outlined are warranted for additional work on this project. That would take us to approximately January 1 for substantial completion, and then they are requesting final completion to be May 31st, which is quite a bit beyond the 10 days from substantial to final as put forth in the contract. But again, we have asphalt and some seeding and things that will have to happen in the spring, which probably can't happen till late April or early May because of the weather.
This project has been long going, and we need to get this one done too.
Will they
Sure.
get any of the blacktop in on South?
So we've got Henry Street completely blacktopped, and the intersection south and Mill is done. I don't know for sure. We are hopeful that the weather will still hold out. I know Opperman has worked with their subcontractor, which is KVCC, for their asphalt, and we're looking to hopefully get that done yet this year. We will see how the weather holds for us.
That word substantial is kind of concerning, but
Excuse me.
What about that, Brian,
The plows with the gravel.
with all that? That's kind of like a chip, it's not even really,
Right, so if the weather gets into a situation where we cannot pave that this year, it would be up to the contractor to maintain that through the winter, because it would be their construction zone until we take final acceptance.
I just worried about like piles of gravel in the snow and then somebody hitting it with a car tire
Right,
or.
yeah, so we're gonna make every effort that we can to get that done yet this year. They've got about 1 block left of storm sewer to complete, and then they've got what they call jetting. They inject water into the trench to speed settlement.
Settlement.
And then, so we're hopeful that we can come back after Thanksgiving and do the asphalt work.
Okay.
Because it is a concern for sure. There's a lot of potential issues throughout the winter if it's not taken care of.
Looks like there's substantial cause to go ahead and grant the extension then. We do need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jared, or
I'll second.
Jason. Seconded by Barb. Roll call, please.
Cowser,
yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cranford,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Super. Now we get into the fun stuff, second quarter financials. Jim?
Yes, all right. And I do, for those that have their packets online, I do have to apologize. I don't think those financials came out facing the right way. That was, I didn't catch that till after that was done, and it won't be that way again. I will tell you that. So I want to just make, you've had an opportunity to look at those. They are in the packets. They were in the packets online, so they're in that public record out there. So I just want to make a few brief comments and then any questions if you should have. The first, most glaring issue is the summary in the general fund. If you look at that, it has the very first page, there's the red for the park subsidy and the ambulance subsidy. This was a error in the exporting of the data. Those numbers actually should be black, not in parentheses, because it is an expense. The subsidies are an expense from this fund. So if you would notice the 321 and the 457 in the fiscal 24 budget actually dropped that number down instead of up. So sometime when you're bored, you can do the real math on that. But the reality is, by looking at the numbers, though, the ambulance subsidy is actually sitting at 38%, where we should be at about 58%. So that is good news. That they're not using as much general fund subsidy as they needed at this point.
It is.
So the next, there really is nothing else overly glaring about the second quarter. The general fund revenues are, one other thing in there was that our contractor fees look very high, and that's really mainly due to a coding issue. From in the past, some of those contractor fees were coded as in the permit section, but we broke them out. And I think I discussed that last time too, and that just kind of will explain that. Throughout, you're going to see some revenue and expenses in line items that are not included on the budget. That is due to our financial provider, Lauterbach and Amon, as they extrapolated the data. They put it where they felt it best fit, and it just didn't fit in one of the categories where when I budgeted, I put it in. So there might be something that would actually be a repair that they're calling something different. But the main thing, I think, is you look at those bottom numbers at the very bottom, the percentages, that we should be really around 50% at the end of these, and most of the departments and the funds are in that area. The Another big one is in the building sidewalk fund expenses. It looks very high. Again, just an accounting error. There's roughly $67,000 that was called sidewalk expenses. It's actually part of the Vermillion Street, South Side Vermillion Street sidewalk project. So they're in the wrong fund. Those should actually be over in capital improvement. And that would take that fund and make it look a whole lot digestible. In the fire budget, there's a year-to-date of $3,789 in volunteer expenses. That's just a reporting area. We really haven't spent anything on volunteer. So again, that's just little things I picked out that maybe that's not so giant in this case, but it stuck out to me. Police equipment, new equipment, they look as though they're over budget, but I just want to remind that there was a couple grants that in there, and so the way we account for those grants, the revenue comes into a grant fund, but the products are purchased out of the equipment fund. So while they look over budget, some of those stuff we knew were going to be used with grant money, and that's like the body cams. Parks overtime is high. That was a payout from Taylor's vacation time. The taxi subsidy shows no revenue. Their revenue is from the corporate property tax. That just has not been transferred to that fund. That happens closer to the end of the year. The sewer fund page. So there's three funds that we have with sewer. We have the sewer operations fund, the construction fund, and then the EPA loan fund. Well, that page of sewer is all three of those combined. And the department transfers that are listed on that page appear to be well over the budget. However, those were banking transfers that we were moving from operations to cover construction costs, and then and we do it regularly, make the transfer from operations over to the EPA loan and make those EPA loan payments, because we don't typically keep a lot of money in those two bank accounts. What that transfer fund, and again, this was Lauterbach moving those because they were transfers into that. But what that transfer fund typically is for is the force account work that is done with the sewer department that is chargeable to another fund. And lastly, both the police and fire pension funds show no revenue for employee withholding. The funds are there. They were just put in a liability account instead of revenue, and I'll make that fix and we'll get those switched over. They typically go in a revenue line item, and they weren't there, and so those would both be at about 50% for the year. So, if you've had a chance to look it over and have any questions on any of the items, and any should come up, feel free to just let me know and I can answer any of those.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you
Yeah.
for all the
job.
wealth of information.
It's
a
been
lot of work.
yeah, and I have to, as things with Lauterbach and Amen work out a little better, we get on a little, the fact that we were able to get second quarter this quick is very good news for us, and good news going into the next year. I think we'll be in good shape, and we'll get all the bugs kinked out. Some of that stuff is still just, rather than in the past, like I said, we would hand pick all that data and go through it all, and they have been able to implement some tools that will extract the data, and sometimes we just have to have conversations on where some of that stuff is supposed to go. But the bottom line is that right now, the financials for the city are in very good shape.
Very good. Mayor's comments. I guess we're having a big weekend too. We have the tree lightings and the big events, the light up parade, and everything on Friday. Excuse me. Santa's arrival and different things, and all being coordinated by our enrichment team. Misty, you're going to be busy again, so keep up the good work. Best thing to say. The other thing is everybody should have a joyous and happy Thanksgiving, which isn't very far away either. So
That's crazy.
I don't have anything else to add right now, so we'll go to city council comments.
Couple things. Number one, Bill and I had a really great meeting this afternoon with a couple of representatives from Trajectory Energy. I can't hardly say that in one I believe they're both still out here. It was more an informational meeting for Bill and I, but they're looking for ways to educate the public in mass quantities, essentially. They're having a hard time getting, they had a meeting and there wasn't a whole lot of interest to come, the open house. And so if anybody has any great ideas, forward them on to me, I'll forward it to them. We did a little brainstorming today and hopefully some of the things, but it's just about how individuals can benefit from participating in community solar through their own homes and what community solar is. So I think it was, I really got a lot out of it. So I'm sure they'd be willing to talk with anybody else who was interested besides the public, council people as well. I had something else in my brain and it has completely escaped me. Oh, the cannabis manufacturing. Do we know anything about?
Last I heard is that they're, and Greg, you can jump in if you've heard anything different, but right before David left, they had been on a pause. I think they were having some issues with their
Build out?
Yeah, their build out, and I think they got that back on track and had applied for some construction permits. And so it's my understanding that they're back on track doing some work.
Okay. We had a conversation a couple months ago about signage and things in the berms, and we've all gotten a correspondence again. Do we have any thoughts of public education or some posts online? There is one particular religious sign that has been in a homeowner's front yard for many months and continues to be there. And I know that we had talk about that, and I just, I don't know if we need to contact that individual or what, but in light of the fact that it's not a permitted sign, maybe we should remind people of where signs can go in their yards, what they think they own, and where it's not permitted.
Be another article for the newsletter.
Exactly, yeah. Or
Very
a
good.
post online, numerous ways, the things we do with all of our stuff.
Yeah, so the reality is that they're, in looking at the ordinance, there really are no exceptions in the right-of-way for signs, because it's theirs really to protect the vision triangle and vehicle traffic and, pedestrians trying to cross roadways, and that type of thing. So, while I will be the first to say that staff is busy, they will never be 100% in policing those things.
Can't be.
We definitely look at those and we'll make a concentrated effort to make sure that we are at least attempting to address everything as evenly and as fairly as possible. So, it always had been David had a routine of when he would go, and I know Greg is doing the same. So as those things come up, the Building and Zoning Office is the office to contact regarding those issues, to feel free to do that. We will address him on complaint, but he does also make trips around the city looking for those types of violations.
Well, like you said, it's impossible to, you can't, there's a lot of miles of streets. You can't find what everybody puts out.
There's another meeting.
No, you're good.
There's another meeting with any of the construction people and the fiber optic people. We need to remind them sternly to stay off of people's private property.
Yeah, and so
See
we
what
are
happened at
in.
Laura Baumgartner's house. My lot and several other lots in town have been used by these fiber optic guys coming in with these trailers full of, and they got their trash and oil and stuff, and it's just all over parking lots and stuff. Mine,
Yeah,
been
we
abused quite a bit.
I definitely can do that, and I would just like to say on that as well. We do have contacts for their head crews, and most of them are they're receptive to when we bring things up, and so we'll make that known to them. We did also meet with them recently too to remind them that part of their permit is to remove the flags, the marking flags, because we do get calls on that too, where people say, it's been 2 weeks and nobody's been here for a long time, and Nicor Gas and the other marking flags, from USIC or whoever put them in there, are in the ground. So part of that is for them to take care of. And so we have had some conversations on different concerns that we have. So all in all, they've been receptive to everything we've done, and I think it's just one of those things that whatever crew you get sometimes has enough time without being looked at close enough, some things slip.
Has there been any turkey vultures sightings or not?
Oh, what's that?
Turkey vultures.
Oh, I think they're gone for the year.
I haven't seen any, I still travel.
Yeah, they're migratory, so they should be gone till spring.
Good.
Has there been any news or anything out of our committee of the whole, any action going on any of the things that we talked about, or any movement on anything that?
Yes, so the main movement that I've had is I do have a meeting coming up with PGAV on Centennial Park, and Brian's been busy and I've been needing to get a hold of him, but with the south side sewer separation, he's been out in the field all day and avoiding me, but not really. But we do have to get it together in-house and discuss the Madison Street plan.
Okay, just curious.
It's not fair, he's eating his lunch in his car.
Yeah, it's true.
That's, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? that you need to make?
Are we to me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just have a couple quick ones. Again, thanks to everyone for all the help they did on Main Street. The staff was fantastic. In addition to that, I did want to just make a public thank you to the Shelley Wilkes family. They donated the Christmas tree down on Block 59, and found out about it through the advertising we had done, that we were looking if someone had a tree that needed to go, and that one was a tree that they had planned on removing, so we were able to use that. So,
It
thank
looks
you.
pretty good, too.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and thanks to Chris, they did a great job getting that tree set up.
Okay. Public comments? No? No? My wife's out there. She usually has a comment or two, but she's forgoing it, so.
We'll hear about it at home.
She's,
Careful.
She's ready to go.
well, she's driving me around.
Yeah.
That's enough work for her,
Okay.
too. Okay. No public comments. I think we have a motion to adjourn by Scott, seconded by John Willie. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy